Hi there, and welcome to episode. You don't know the work that's gone on behind the scenes just to get this episode started, for God's sake. Hi there, and welcome to episode 142 of the ADHD Adults Podcast. I'm James Brown, the man who you shouldn't make angry because you wouldn't like him when he's angry. And as usual, I'm joined by the man who you wouldn't like whether he was angry or not, I guess, Dr. Alex Connor, and the woman who puts the Hulk into our marriage, Mrs ADHD. Alex, hi.
Hulk smash, James. That was
Hulk smash. So is that Hulk making?
Mm.
Yes, we know this. And just before we started recording, there was a conversation about that, which interrupted. You wouldn't believe this, listeners. It interrupted something I was saying. Believe it or not. We'll move on anyway. Sam, hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Oh, talking of smash, Sam, I used to like those Martian robots. James wouldn't know what this was about, but just I thought they were good. A reminder that we only started the podcast because James and I wanted a break from all of our holidays, healthy relaxation, downtime, that sort of thing. But now we do a second episode a week, probably sometimes, because at this point, it feels like when you've invested so much into something, if you stopped, you'd have to have a serious examination into your life choices. Sam's here as well because she thought this was Would I Lie to You?
You always lie to me.
Amazing.
Yeah, yes.
So
I did it.
For those of you that obviously, and that's all of you, don't know the fucking shit show that happened before we started recording this, Sam said that line about 90 seconds after she was meant to, in the middle of me talking. We thought it was a technical delay, but apparently it wasn't. Sam was just reading bits out of the script when she wanted to.
It was in green.
It was in green. Anyway, all our operators are currently busy. If you'd like to make an appointment to see your doctor, please call back. Other podcast is also a tragedy in 3 parts. We'll discuss how the week between podcasts has been from our perspective as people who've got the thing, and as also people involved in the community, as well as answering questions from you. So remember to send those questions through on the form on the website, www.theadhdadults.uk. And we'll also talk a little bit more about this week's theme, which was, I don't know, what was it? I can't remember. Anger. What, all 3? Okay, amazing. As always, I'll ask you how your week was, and nobody will ask me. Well, Sam will. So, Sam, how was your week?
I can't remember. How about you?
Amazing.
We can't remember this week.
I can't remember what's happened.
Do you want me to remind you?
Yeah, read the script, Sam. That I've put it in so you can remember.
Really good, harmonious, and medically fine. Oh yeah, I went to hospital. That was my own fault, though.
I mean, it wasn't your own fault. You had chest pains. You were incredibly stressed, and you did the thing that we often all do, which is mention it to a GP. And if you mention to a GP or anyone at primary care, I've got chest pains, they're going to say either go to A&E, go to an emergency treatment centre. It was
just an immense pressure. Just in a band across the
they're
chest.
always fine then.
Yeah. Having that feeling of a belt tightened around your chest. Yeah. That's always fine, Sam. Always.
Well, that's why I thought I should ring 111, but they sent me to A&E anyway.
Of course.
Have you tried turmeric?
I have actually. Yeah.
Sam,
listen,
Sam, if you're comfortable with it, I think it's important to talk about your experience there, but only if you're comfortable with it.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with everything. Not everything. Some things I'm really not. In fact, most things I'm not comfortable with.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, fire away and tell us about your awful experience at the hospital.
Yes, well, I had a heavy, like a pressure across my chest, and I thought, God, my bra's really, really tight, really pressing on me. And then I pulled my bra up, and it was still there, and I thought, oh dear, I can't really breathe, and I just pretended I was okay, and then went upstairs and Googled it because James had a migraine and I didn't want to upset him. And then I just said, I'm just going to nip to the doctors, and he went, the doctors? Anyway, I went to A&E on my own. I didn't take anything with me. I just thought I'd be in and out. I don't know what I was thinking. I took my phone, but I had no noise cancelling headphones, no earplugs, nothing calming to do, no food or anything. I just went and was there for like 8 hours, and it was a nightmare. And I had a bit of a meltdown, and everybody was looking at me, and it was it was really awful. But there was a really lovely woman that came and calmed me down eventually. And yeah, it was terrible. Mm,
That's why I asked if you wanted to share it, because I didn't want to necessarily bring those feelings back, but I think it's important
yeah,
to share it for three reasons. One, I feel a lot of guilt that I wasn't there. Now, I had a migraine and I couldn't be there, but obviously I blame myself. Two, headache, yeah, a little headache. Two, I want to find those people and burn them alive. The people that were pointing at Sam and looking at her and talking about it, I want them dead, Alex.
Yeah.
And that is considering we're talking about anger this week. I cannot tell you the rage I had when Sam told me this, and I didn't really show it to. I had to go outside and internally scream. And the third thing is, if you're ever in that situation, you're in a place, it might be an airport, it might be a hospital, and you see somebody that looks like they're really struggling, do what that woman did. Just go over and see if you can help. Don't be the people that point and stare and say, oh, look at her. And it's the same with children. If you see, I'm not saying approach children, I'm not allowed to, but if you see, a child having a meltdown in the supermarket, don't just assume, oh, terrible parent, or that child's naughty. It could be that they're in overwhelming circumstances and situations, and I am fucking still violently angry about what happened.
No, that's really good advice. So the question, what can I do? That's it, right? That's all you need.
Yeah.
Sam, talking about us having meltdowns in public, people don't do that. People don't talk about that. They don't realize that that's a part of neurodivergence that is, it's embarrassing, isn't it? It's not.
it is,
odd to
because
have this
actually
emotion.
sometimes my meltdowns aren't. It was more of a it was a meltdown. I suppose it was hysterical crying and stuff, but sometimes it can be
shut down.
Look like anger. Sometimes I can look like I'm throwing a tantrum, and I know, yeah.
I get really evil and cold looking. I can't.
What do you mean you go? You're like that.
No looking. Oh, I don't mean when I have a meltdown, Sam. I mean when we record this podcast.
Anyway, yes, it was a lovely woman, distracted me, and she was great. She was getting me to play games on her phone and was talking to me, and she was really good at really calming me down. She was lovely.
Did she know?
She was a carer. I don't know. She spotted she was caring for somebody else. She just, as soon as she walked in, she just came over and sat next to me, and I'm like, what did you? But she was really, really, really good, and she was there caring for somebody else, but she kept coming back and checking on me. She was lovely.
Respect.
Yes, and
absolutely.
my heart is fine.
Yeah, your stress levels, on the other hand,
only part of you that is.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I took up a lot of time doing that. How are you both?
That's not what you say. You say, how are you, James?
Yeah, sorry. How are you, James?
Yeah. You're not meant to ask me, but still. Fucking terrible. Awful. The last 3 weeks, after being on a pretty good run the last 3 weeks, as it always happens with me, completely derailed by physical health. So I've had, in the last 3 weeks, if you look at the working days, those 15 days, I've managed 3 days because of 9 migraines and a diarrhea and vomiting bug. I've lost clients, coaching clients, and I absolutely support them going to somebody that is more reliable, because you need to have somebody reliable. Thanks, Sam. It's obviously impacted my mental health, because whenever I have a string of migraines, I hate myself, I feel like a burden, etc. But the positive part of it is it's allowed me to have a good, hard look at myself and my life and the things that I do. And I know I've chatted to both of you about this, so I am starting to make kind of steps that are healthier. And it is difficult, but I've already started removing the barriers to exercise by, for example, putting my gym gear on first thing in the morning, and then in between a couple of coaching sessions going on the treadmill, for example. I've really looked at my hydration levels. This is, Al, you and I both used to teach renal physiology. Yeah. And we've talked about this in the past. Yesterday, I drank 7.6 litres of water. Yeah. Because I know if I drink less than about 4, I get massively dehydrated. Now, after drinking 7.6 litres of water, I woke up at 3 a.m. completely dehydrated with a headache. and Sam brought me a litre of fluid. I drank it and it was fine. I must sweat so much at night that I am losing so much, because it's called insensible fluid loss. I'm losing so much fluid and electrolytes, so I now take electrolytes before I go to bed. That is what causing my migraines, and is what's causing them. So I'm measuring every milliliter of fluid that I intake. But the weird thing is, Al, weird thing is 7.6 liters of intake, and I'm not pissing as much as I normally do.
Yeah, that was the question, really, because if it was diabetes insipidus, it would be
exactly, or even diabetes, normal diabetes. I'm not thirsty. I'm not drinking because I'm thirsty. It's weird because I normally, in the past, when I micturate, I do it about 3 times a day, and people 3 doors down can hear it because it sounds like a horse releasing a gallon of fluid into a bucket. But even in the last few days where I've been drinking 6 liters, 7.6 liters, little tiny baby wheeze several times a day. So I don't know where the water's, well, obviously I'm losing it somewhere because I haven't got edema. I'm not collecting fluid in my body. It's fucking weird.
The weirdest thing is, though, that I've been telling you this for ages.
She has.
I mean, the number of times he's gone to the GP about it, though, is none, presumably.
Oh, interestingly, Alex, I was talking to one of my clients. Did you know that molecule that you worked on for years? Which could have made you billions. CGRP.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Do you know now you don't have to go through the 6 months of kind of preventative?
Yeah.
It's now you can now get it from a GP if you've got migraines as a preventative or as an abortive.
The drug that I've got nothing to do with because I was working on the wrong thing for 10 years.
Yeah, well, it started off because you thought people wouldn't take injections if they had migraines. Seriously,
it's a little headache.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Anyway, that's my time, Alex. With that news, how have you been?
Yeah, illness. The whole family's rough, and the 7-year-old particularly awful. We've got to go to the doctor in about an hour. She had neck pain and headache and sore throat. So obviously, immediately I'm Googling, like panicking about meningitis. And then it's probably like 16 hours later, I remember again. She's been vaccinated. Completely forgot again. Massively overcommitted to a new project. I made an embarrassing website. A little bit of it isn't embarrassing because James helped me with that bit, but most of it's awful. Because otherwise, coaching clients can't get their companies or access to work or whatever to pay. If you haven't got a website, you're not a human being, apparently. Mm-hmm. So I get it, but it's like it's
James has got a website.
I know, but it looks all right, and mine looks.
It did. Sam, when we were in, where did we do talks this week?
I don't know.
When we were in Leeds, when we were in Leeds, Alex sent me a message about his website and said I was saying use WordPress, and he was saying, it's a bit clunky. So I said, well, there's plugins you can use. And then he said, well, your website, I like the picture of a chair or something on your website. And I said, what bike? I said, what picture of a bike? He said, there's a lovely picture of a bike there. And I went onto my website. I'm like, there isn't. And I'd even sent him the fucking URL, but he'd gone to jbhd.com where there's just a picture of a bike and contact us. And he said, I really like that.
Well, I didn't. It was more of a shit sandwich shape. I was criticizing it gently. I'm so glad that it wasn't yours.
Good approach.
But otherwise fine. So, and also migraine isn't a headache. It's a joke I do to laugh at my own lack of billions. And to laugh at James because his are little headaches. So, as always, what stupid thing have you been doing instead of what you were supposed to be doing this week, James? I really want to know what your script.
Reminds me. So imagine, put yourself this little thought experiment, Alex. Put yourself in my shoes. You've lost 12 out of 15 working days in the last 3 weeks. Yeah. You're still writing and delivering an online course on productivity, which when you started, you were 2 weeks ahead, but now you're 2 days ahead in terms of having things ready. And you've got to get stuff done. People don't realize that when you're writing an academic lecture, normally between 7 and 10 hours worth of work for each hour that you deliver. So for a 2-hour session, it could be 20 hours of work. And I had to do that in one day. So instead, because the local supermarket didn't have what we call it licky, because it's the cat paste that you can put out, which our cats really like, and we call it licky. because it's just to get them to know that it's there. So we'll go licky licky, which is also
Oh,
what I
you gross bastard.
at times for different reasons. And because they didn't have any and they've not had any for a while, and because our shit cats will not eat food unless you put the paste on top, I thought I'll make my own. I googled how to make it. So I spent, on a day where I had to spend the whole day working on this project, 3 hours boiling chicken and boiling salmon, and then using a blender to blend it all up, and then trying to work out how much water. Yeah, because they have a fish one as well, don't they, Sam? How much? It said add water, but should I add cat milk? And it was too thin, and then it was too thin.
Did you Google make my own licky licky?
I did something similar, Alex.
Why
Yes.
didn't you just use meat sandwich paste or something and mix that with
shepherd
milk?
Yeah, that would have been easier, wouldn't it? And
I
cheaper.
thought that's what you were doing.
No. I was
Happened?
frozen. Yeah, and I didn't. I also went to Aldi where it's cheaper, forgot, and then went to Asda where it's more expensive and bought the frozen meat from there. Anyway, the other thing I've been doing, which is ADHD related, instead of what I'm supposed to be doing, for the very first time, I got an earworm just as I was going to sleep. Now, it's a band that I really, really like. They've just released a new single, so obviously I've been listening to it. Yes, Sood, or Swede, as one of the Radio 1 DJs called it when they first came out. This is a new single from Swede. So I've been listening to that song quite a bit to kind of get used to it. And I don't know which night, I can't remember which night it was. The second my head hit the pillow, I could not stop that song playing all night. I could not stop it playing. And it was really angering me. And now I'm like, should I even listen to it again? Am I going to trigger that again if I listen to it? It was horrendous. And that insomnia meant another missed day of work because I was just all over the place.
Did you try playing the whole song through?
I didn't.
That's a tip
okay.
for earworms. Some people find, because often it's because you've missed a lyric or you're not entirely sure what the tune is. So if you play the whole song to yourself, it can reduce the earworm.
Yeah, I think I played it like 20 times that day before. But yeah, when I go to bed, I could, because sometimes when I do struggle to sleep, I will listen to music. So that might work. Sam, what stupid thing have you been doing instead of what you were supposed to be doing?
Well, I guess being in the hospital when I should have been working. Actually, last night I couldn't sleep because I was trying to remember what happened in the end with the snake. But anyway,
in the end with the snake.
In the end with the snake. Yeah.
If you're missing
in
context,
a short film that Wes Anderson, it doesn't matter. I was trying to remember what happened at the end of a short story, but I couldn't remember, and I couldn't. And I was trying to edit videos, but the software's just broken, so I just spent all night just anyway. What about you, Alex?
It was a Mr. Kipling exceedingly good short story as well, wasn't it?
Wes Anderson.
Yeah, but it was based on Rudyard Kipling's short story. All those three Wes Anderson films, Sam, were based on.
Joke,
no,
James.
they weren't. They were based on.
Sorry. Yeah, Roald Dahl. So you're right. That joke.
Okay.
We both lose there, Al. Anyway,
I should have done a horrible racist joke instead of a Mr. Kipling joke.
Was he racist?
Oh, you're horrible.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't he anti-Semitic or something? I feel like I'm saying things that I might get sued for, so I have to be a bit careful.
Oh, this is like when James
allegedly
says that all animals are rapists and they're not.
Well, but most of them are, I think. Birds, especially. All birds, I think, are rapists.
Not bats, though.
No, bats. Well,
there's in the news today. There's a bat that's the first example of a mammal that does non-penetrative mating. Apart from James, obviously.
Bonobos do. Bonobos do.
Like, they can have babies without penetrative sex.
Oh.
No way.
Yeah. They've got a massive girth knob that's like 10 times as big as a vaginal hole, so it can't go in.
They just fling their junk.
Wow.
Or Tuesday, as James calls it.
Yes. Anyway, Alex, what have you been doing instead of what you should have been doing?
Oh, I made the stupid fucking mistake of downloading a computer game. I have. I know.
Yeah, you did this.
Will I like it?
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. So I used to play Elite back in the olden days, and it's like a spaceship game. And there's now a new one, and I downloaded it. And what's weird is, 20 years later, even more, my imagination is better than the new one, even though it's almost flawless. Because it was just lines, but in my head it was incredible. So yes, I've got to delete that because it's like crack to me, any computer game.
Oh yeah, I'm the same.
Ooh, yeah, I can not be trusted, especially with all the things that James, all of us have signed on to stupidly. Oh, I have to just add before you wind us up for the thing, Sam, that on the script James has just written as a reminder of this week, cat yogurt earworm. It's an amazing sentence.
My week in a nutshell.
Cat yogurt.
Thanks for that break, Boytica. I'm sorry. I'll stop that again.
Cut that. Change it in post.
Thanks for that, both. We're going to take a break and we'll be back in part 2 with questions and thoughts from our lovely community. I don't know what to call them anymore.
People. Trumpet.
Welcome back to part 2 of the ADHD Adults Extra Special Friday edition. One of the first somethings after the last Monday something for season 2. As always, on a Friday part 2, we're taking questions from the ADHD adult community. I'm coming in straight away with the first question. Slightly long one, so put it on 1.5 if you don't already. You probably do. Question 1. This is from Victoria or Illinois on Discord. It says, my question is about recovering from physical injuries that require rest. I know you've all had physical injuries, some more than others. I'm looking at you, James, and presumably not in a mirror then. Hey, and was wondering if you had any tips on actually resting and not pushing things, because you're a Dracula, you see, and not pushing things too soon out of boredom, impatience, and thinking you're better when you're not. Victoria, you're describing my entire life. Let's have an operation, really, because of this. I'm obviously massively impatient and want my current whiplash and shoulder injury to heal, but I keep trying to do things seemingly too quickly and set myself back even further to the point where I'm ending up losing my job. That's a tale I won't regale you with, but sitting around doing nothing is, well, fucking boring, and there's only so much terrible TV, podcasts one can watch or listen to before going completely loopy. Thanks in advance. You're all amazing at being shit. Keep up the good work. Thumbs up, smiley face. And of course, the obligatory RSD sentence for Victoria. I'm joking, obviously. Love you all. I like the idea that she'd write all that and I think we wouldn't know that it was a support. I traditionally write into people I fucking hate. That's amazing. I mean, Jesus, any one of us? Yes, all of them.
I know.
James?
I put this in because I just thought I want to know this because this is something I'm no good at.
Shall I start?
Yeah, go.
I'll start because it's gonna be really quick. I exercise less than a sloth that's been in a major road traffic accident. So therefore, if I obviously I have back pain, and therefore that is a thing that sometimes needs to be nursed. But I am more than happy to just not have to ever get back into doing stuff. And it's also difficult when that pain or that injury, if you like, is chronic and doesn't go away. So I can't help with this. So let's go to Alex.
I've done something about it because I'm a nightmare. I had to have an operation because of this. What I've done is I Googled about 4 different exercises that I kind of am okay with enjoying. Some of them are a bit boring, that use different muscle groups. And one of them is I put a bike on one of those. You know, those cheap sort of
I've got one under my desk.
Yeah, so when I did my knee, I realized I couldn't. That doesn't hurt because there's no impact, so I can swap to that, so if you like weights as well. So heavy weights are, if you do like 8 minutes of really exhaustive heavy weights, it's like doing a half an hour run in a way because it raises your heart rate. It's good for you. So do that instead. If you've hurt your muscles, do really light jogging instead, or the cycle thing. So or swimming, or so have different things which use different groups. It's obviously notoriously boring than the thing you want to do, but for me it was the only way because I couldn't just stop. Dancing as well, James. I'm doing that at the moment, as you know.
Yeah,
I know. Jesus Christ, German. What was it? Interpretive German dance.
The Village Men's Ballet Dance Group tournament
but it's
competition
not
in
ballet.
January. Well, ballet.
Anyway, we won't go over this again. We did it last time. But
there are times when the level of
street dance, interpretive street dance.
Yeah, there are times when the level of disgust, hatred, loathing, shame and embarrassment for being associated with you. I think I've reached. It's like, how big is the universe? I think I've reached kind of the edges, but then you manage to find somehow for me to expand that loathing,
another dimension of hatred.
It's impressive, really. Sam, have you got any tips on this?
I don't know how to do nothing, as you know. In like any sense, I just can't ever fucking stop. And I keep pulling my shoulder out at pole, and then I just
Ding.
Ding.
and then I just lie to my instructor and say it's better. And he's just trying to study me the whole time and going, "It's not better, is it? Let's stop now." And I'm going, "No, no, it's fine," because I don't want to stop. So I am not one to. Yeah, I don't know how.
Did you? Do you? Have you ever had physio, Sammy? You've lied to them as well.
No, I don't bother with physio.
Oh God!
That would make me
What's his name?
No, she just goes to the back cracker
man.
who actually made her back worse. But what was it he told you?
Well, I've said this on the podcast. He saved my back in the long run because he gave me some tips on using the weed puller.
Yeah, that's it.
Ding! That's it. Come on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So he did save my back, but yeah.
Yeah, just to wrap things up, because this isn't just about exercise, it's about just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Often, obviously, it comes down to what you find rewarding or just what you makes you feel better about yourself. And it might be that an activity is boring. It might be that, kind of just watching a whole series of a program you've watched before might be dull, but think about what you generally find rewarding or things that you enjoy, and do that for a bit. If that gets boring, think about something else you might find some enjoyment from. If there's nothing, if you're like me, there's nothing you get enjoyment from, it is tougher. But I do tend to just put stuff on television as a way of doping myself and just kind of taking myself out of reality. But try and think about the things in the past. Yeah, try to think about the things in the past that you have enjoyed, or that have at least been able to engage with, and see if that will work. Anyway, question 2. Thank you, Victoria. Question 2 is from Mike Travis, and it says, short version: for years before getting diagnosed, when I couldn't get something done I wanted to, especially around health, etc., I would self-flagellate through negative self-talk and use that as a way to let myself off the hook, since no one could be harder on me than me. Ding.
Yep.
Now that I'm medicated and in therapy, much of the negative self-talk has faded, with some exceptions. When it comes to health, Jesus Christ, this is hitting the mark. With some exceptions, when it comes to health issues, quitting smoking again, exercise. Mike, are you in my head? Jesus. Yeah. Quitting smoking again, exercising, sleep routines. I found myself slipping back to old routines about self-talk. With the benefit of treatment, I've been able to look at this a lot more honestly, and I'm realizing it's become both a crutch and that it feels shockingly like an addiction. I'm wondering if this is common in our community, as I'm aware of negative self-talk and RSD, but haven't seen much discussion over using it as a crutch and what impact this can have over forming habits to escape it. Quick note: radical acceptance has helped a ton, but now that the real work has begun, my brain has just gone. That's the raspberry noise, in case it wasn't clear. It wasn't. So instead, that's from Mike Travis. Alex, go first, because I've got to gather my thoughts, because that was me, basically.
From a psychoeducation perspective, yes, it's well known that negative self-talk and catastrophizing are something we do as a preparatory way to prepare ourselves for rejection and negative consequences, but they lead to negative consequences. So it's a maladaptive or an unhealthy strategy to deal with the future when you're predicting the future is only bad. And what's really frustrating is loads of us, almost maybe most of us with ADHD, can deal with that negative thing in the future, but what we can't deal with is the anticipation of it and the uncertainty of it. So yes, Mike, it's a brilliant spot that you've hit, that psychologists have only really recently started talking about brilliantly. That it is, and addictive is an interesting word for it. I would say it's a habit that can be broken, and the only way to do that is to start really small and just once a day practice. Sorry, I just remembered that Alan Partridge thing about giving advice to a racist by try being like not racist 3 times a day at the start, and then and it is a bit like that. Try saying one positive thing about sleeping. The aim isn't to always sleep always well. It's not to always exercise every day. It's small, achievable, tiny goals, and rewarding yourself for when it works, not beating yourself for when it doesn't. And even that itself is a small task. Sorry, bit of a long answer, but it's a really
No,
great
it's good.
shout. Mike.
It was a good one. Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I have this. This is just my whole kind of persona is just hating myself and putting myself down all the time, and I have even thinking about stopping it terrifies me.
Yeah.
It absolutely terrifies me because I don't want to think that I'm less shit than I think I am, if that makes sense. I daren't even let it, because I think it's just such a kind of coping mechanism for me to lower people's expectations and to I always get the first punch in, and nobody can destroy me as much as I destroy myself. So
Yeah.
I
Thing.
openly tell everybody how completely shit I am, because nothing they can say could ever be worse than the things I say about myself, and I am too scared to
Challenge
ever stop that.
accepted.
Wonderful. Yeah.
That is such a great shout, Sam. You're so right. And it does sound like an addiction. I used to be terrified of admitting I had an alcohol problem because I wanted to keep drinking alcohol, even though I hated it. It's my identity. It's my
Yeah.
pattern, right?
Yeah.
If someone's asking you to break the pattern that is safe to you, the
Yeah.
pattern of
And
shitness.
it's all you know. And what are you if you're not that?
Yeah. That's a
Anyway,
great
James,
shout.
you.
James,
Yeah.
go.
This is going to be difficult for me to talk about. So I before Dad died, I promised him to stop smoking, and therefore the self-loathing and negative self-talk that I have about still smoking is uncontrollable, because every so often I'll remember that that's the one promise I didn't keep to him. Now, there's a couple of reasons that we do this. What Sam was talking about and what Alex was talking about, there's a form of therapy called internal family systems. It's a therapy that I've received, and it's really helpful. That image of yourself is called your protector, and we build this protector because therefore it stops you from, like you say, you get the first punch in. That protector stops you from receiving negative external validation because you've already got it. It's a way of protecting yourself psychologically from people criticizing you, because if you accept your shit, if you accept you can't do something, if you accept that you're useless, it doesn't matter what people say because it bounces off your protector.
Yeah.
In terms of why we often do this negative self-talk, Alex mentioned the word uncertainty, and that's really important. So again, biologically, and I can't remember if we've released a stress episode or not. I don't think we have we? We may have, I don't know.
I don't know.
But biologically, the way in which we respond to stressors is different because of our environment. So in the past, we would have had a fight or flight response to physical threats. Now, because we don't have those physical threats, it's often uncertainty that causes anxiety. So what negative self-talk does is alleviates that anxiety in the short term. Because if we don't have somebody to blame for something, and there are psychological studies, for example, comparing Chernobyl to Hiroshima, and the effect on the mental health of those people, that people in Hiroshima generally had recovered their mental health better because they could blame the Americans for dropping the bomb. People in Chernobyl and in that surrounding area didn't really have anyone to blame. So beyond all the physical impact, the mental health didn't respond as well, because without blame, there is uncertainty. Without uncertainty, it's hard to reach a resolution. So when we use this negative self-talk, we are in the short term alleviating kind of anxiety and stress, but in the long term, we're building it up. So it is a crutch. It is a way of getting through that one cigarette that you're having, that night that you're not sleeping. And it's a way of allocating blame so that you've got more certainty. It's my fault. I'm an idiot. I'm pathetic that I didn't stop smoking when I promised Dad. It gives my brain, it reduces uncertainty because it points the blame at someone.
It's so good. You know, all the incels and the cooks and the angry Trumpists and all that, it's all the same thing, isn't it? I am what you say I am. I'm deplorable. I'm those things. And therefore, you were right about me, so I'm going to act out. And that is very, very, very similar and very connected. Great spot. Bit serious, though. And I misread that at the start really badly. We shouted, "James, go!" which is fantastic. I won't
Amazing.
berate myself internally about that later on.
Right, I've got a triple fisted about
Ooh.
ADHD and alcohol. I haven't actually, somebody else has, but I'm not going to name them. 1, I have a drinking problem and drink quite a lot, but never consider myself as being drunk. Could this be poor metacognition, stroke alexithymia, stroke something similar? And could it be linked to ADHD? 2, I find that a couple of days after a heavy session, my emotional dysregulation, stroke RSD, go through the roof and lead to bad times and self-harm ideation. Is this common? It's not RSD about things that happened whilst I was drunk. It's taking totally unconnected things the following few days really personally. 3, for decades, I put all my issues down to drinking stroke substance abuse, which I tried really hard to hide. It feels like some type of double layer unmasking going on when I've been covering up my substance abuse for years, but at points when I've cut down, stroke stopped, I've realised that I'm still not myself. Possibly because I'm masking my ADHD. Does that make any sense? I don't really know what I'm asking in question 3. Any thoughts? I love
That's
the
lovely.
ending to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot there, and I don't know
Yeah.
how to deal with any of it.
Again, I'm going to step out a little bit because my ability to drink is the same as a 3-year-old child. I just can't drink alcohol.
No. Oh, yeah, but blood, you're all right.
Blood, yeah, blood. Technically, I sup on blood, Alex. I don't drink it, but I think that this is pretty. I guess this is largely your area as an alcoholic in rabbit ears.
Because
I
I'm a
mean, I
pretend
used to
alcoholic.
really struggle with this, really
Yeah.
badly. I used to drink. I mean, I'd drink 2 or 3 bottles of wine a night. I would have
Yeah.
cocktails most nights. I was drunk a lot, and I never considered myself to be an alcoholic or have a problem with alcohol at all. But
Okay,
my hate was about things I did while I was
Yeah.
drunk. It was awful.
we're doing an episode on addiction, aren't we? Soon.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we're going to cover a lot of this. So shall I like quickly answer? So the first question
Please,
is,
yeah.
The first question is yes. If you have a drinking problem and you don't consider yourself a drunk, it's because the word drunk is a negative word, the same as the word alcoholic. It's not used medically at all anymore. If the alcohol use or any use of anything is affecting you or the people around you, then it is acceptable to say you have a use disorder, and in my case, an alcohol use disorder. If you're asking about affecting people around you, it would be helpful to write them a letter. It turns out that I was massively affecting my family, and they were just too kind to tell me. The shame of that is high. The second one is all the self-harm ideation, the emotional dysregulation, the depression and anxiety to do with alcohol is a direct biological link of alcohol use for 2 reasons. 1, because it's a neurodepressant that causes these things, and 2, because it is a sedative. It stops you sleeping properly, and sleep is one of the main exacerbations of ADHD, depression, anxiety symptoms. So yeah, alcohol's a fucking. I know I'm being a bit smug here, but I struggle with drinking still. So it sounds like I'm cured, but you never are. Annoyingly,
Do you have to use 2 hands like Donald Trump? Is that how you struggle with it?
Yeah, it's like on top of, yeah. That's like a 1990s joke, isn't it? I got a drinking problem. I keep spilling it in my car while I'm beating up women. There was a lot of misogyny in the 90s. And then third one is brilliant. So yes, there's a difference between that traditional alcoholic thing that people talk about, that alcohol use disorder that's a chemical addiction that I don't have, and where you're self-medicating, right, for all the tabs being open, Sam. And if it's that one, when you stop drinking, the fucking tabs never shut down. A friend of mine with OCD had the same thing. They're a recovering alcoholic, and suddenly the OCD comes back. It's the same with ADHD. So yeah, if the alcohol's there to self-medicate for the ADHD, then you're like, oh, I'm just a shit person. And that requires support and help and a little bit of self-love. Ding, 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 ding.
The one thing I think that's interesting in the question is the bit about I've realized I'm still not myself, possibly because I'm masking my ADHD. And the question it's difficult because I don't know who it is, but I would like a conversation is do you know kind of what your identity is? Do you know what myself is? Is there is that a person you want to be, or is it a person that you know yourself to be when you are not using substances or after you've used substances?
So good. Or the people that the kind of your family who know you as the kind of masker want you to be. And
Yeah,
you're really leaning into this thing is the same as you're not causing yourself pain anymore.
Yeah, I think if we don't really, sometimes we don't know ourselves because we've never unmasked in front of any. James is the only person I've ever fully unmasked in front of. So it's
it's a
okay.
tenuous one, but I'll accept it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
Also
it's difficult if you don't know, you haven't
is.
spent enough time with yourself sober and unmasked to know who
Mm.
you are. You don't know who you are and you don't know how much you're masking. It's a really
You
good
don't.
one.
I tell this story at all of the Science of ADHD little talks when the very first picture is Balloon Head's face. And I
Yeah.
always say that this is the reason I'm doing this talk, because of this balloon-headed idiot. And I always tell the story of how I genuinely thought Alex was the most sorted out. I mean, he's got. Why have I not got a handle on this? And then I spent 2 days in Cornwall with him, and was like, holy fuck, this guy masks like a motherfucker. Because I've known him for 15. Yeah, I've known him for 15 years, but walk late to a meeting for me to have a job. Every 5 steps, oh, look, a cow. And then,
Tree.
oh, that gate's interesting. Yeah, that tree. And it was, but the anxiety, the not being able to sit still, all of those struggles I had, and I've known you for so long, I'd never seen, because you masked so well. So that
I bite my lip till I bled sometimes in meetings and just sit still.
I do that all the time.
Mrs. Lisa, the wife, said this week that it still surprises her. Like just this week, people think now you must be together. It doesn't work like that, does it? This week she said she's still shocked that I mask in every social situation.
Mm.
She thinks that that's really surprising because she doesn't. It's just herself.
Oh,
imagine!
wow!
Imagine what that's like.
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine.
No, baffling. Right, we're going to take a break because this is the longest Friday episode in the history of ADHD. In part 3, we're going to be back on this week's theme and podcast.
Alex, hi.
Aight. What's up?
Okay,
Hello.
welcome back to. Oh, sorry. 3.
Just carry on.
1.
Okay. Welcome back to episode 142 of the ADHD Adults podcast, where we are talking about anything but anger, it seems. But this is the first Friday edition of the podcast after Monday's edition of anger. I'm doing Alex. It's really weird. Ding. James, no. James, what made you choose the podcast?
the lovely Jack, who's become such a close and dear friend to me, partly because he's one of the only people who ever actually does anything for me or comes and visits me, but also because he's Jack, the Toblerone guy. He's such an amazing guy, and when I first met him, I think they're brilliant personally.
Yes, but absolute filth. Funny.
Oh yeah, no, of course, but yeah, exactly. He sent me one yesterday about what's the worst part about a prostate exam, which I'm not going to finish. When I first met Jackie, he needed coaching and he was in a bad place, and he was undiagnosed. He was pretty sure he had ADHD. I think he'd listened to the podcast, otherwise how would he have got in touch with me? And his major issue was anger, and that the inability to control his anger and the way in which that had manifested itself in ways that had, affected his interaction with the criminal justice system, let's put it that way, and certainly with other people. It's been something I've wanted to do for a while, and I kind of wanted to get him on and to talk about this, and I'd like to do that maybe at some point, because he's got a very strong story. So that's why I thought it was important, because I know somebody who, for that, it was almost the most profound way in which their ADHD was affecting them. Alex?
Yeah, it's a big aspect of ADHD, isn't it? Anger and controlling emotional dysregulation. And I think because we'd had so many letters on addiction, I thought it would be good to do one on anger, Sam, so you could get. So Sam put those letters about addiction and alcohol in because she thought it You got the wrong script.
I got the wrong script. Yeah, I thought this was the Friday one after addiction.
It is, but I mean, that feeling of getting angry at society. I think that's one part of ADHD that I'm not too concerned about, because it's a whole shit show designed not for us. But getting angry at people I love for things that I don't actually care about, and being bitter and grumpy and holding a grudge about things that, like, 2-3 days later, I don't give a shit about. And in that control it has over us, and that learning to deal with it. It's a really, really awful, for me, element of the disorder. That's why. Sam, why would you have chosen this? Why?
I didn't. I have no control over anything that happens in this podcast.
Slightly different version, but acceptable.
Changing
I'd
it.
say.
I like it.
I couldn't remember what I normally said.
No.
Was there any thought or tip or theme from what's the theme? What?
Anger.
The theme of anger.
That you forgot to say?
You can see the green. You can see the green coming up.
Anyone? Yeah.
You can see the green line coming up.
Alex.
You know how you can see it. It's green. It says, it literally says Sam on it.
Believe it or not, I was reading that.
Whilst putting lip balm on.
Yes.
On video.
Was
Right,
there any
so-
thought or tip from the theme that you forgot to say, Alex?
We'll cut that, put it in post. Yeah, if you can make James angry, put in that extra effort to do so. And the thing that I didn't say on Monday's episode was that there is a difference between 5 minutes of emotional dysregulation and then staying angry. So for the 5 minutes thing, remove yourself. Say in advance you're going to, because I can't speak when I'm in that ridiculous, embarrassing. I get all like cold looking, and so I just wave, remove myself, and then come back and say, not bothered. But if you find you're staying angry, what I have to do is assume kind intent. I don't think that my wife, as just an example, is filling up the bags of recycling so they go over the outside of the bag into a kind of artistic hillock. So when I even touch them, they shatter everywhere when I'm trying to put the recycling into the bin. I think she does it because she's busy looking after our freaking children, you know, and it's not a big deal. But at the time, my brain's going, she's doing that to annoy me. I'm worth all the gold in the world. It's pathetic. You know, it's this sort of holding a grudge for no reason. And the reality is that it's kind intent. It's because she's busy doing something more important. So I try, and it's not easy to have kind intent.
That is difficult. Sometimes I find myself writing things down that I'm angry about, because I think I don't want to forget how angry I am about this.
I do it all the
ridiculous. And then the next day I'll read it and think, what the fuck?
Yeah, what kind of
Even
prick
me?
would write this list?
Why are you taking time to write this down?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It just
What
said,
about-
you breathe funny at me. Oh,
You know how I hate that, and you did it on purpose.
You maliciously didn't phone me at 3 p.m. when you know that's when I'm watching Doctors. I want to talk about it. Oh God, what about you, James?
Just communication. I probably talked about this anyway, but it's if you're angry with somebody that you have a personal relationship with, it's okay if you're angry and you think afterwards maybe that was inappropriate to apologize, to talk about it. It's also okay if you genuinely believe that the thing that caused you anger was justifiable, to asking questions. Safe. So Lisa, I mean, are you doing that deliberately to make it more difficult for me, or are you just really busy? No, it does. But sometimes in asking, we can diffuse that anger because it sounds ridiculous. And even asking the question and writing it down can help. If you even write down, I think Lisa is. Alex and I know about this because we did some work ages ago. Turn it into a film script. You know, turning it into a ridiculous film script. So yeah. Lisa is putting the recycling out in that way because there's a badger called Frank that leads a SWAT team in America that comes around every so often. There isn't really, Sam. I'm turning it into a ludicrous film script. I can see her face. She got interested with a badger called Frank. And if Frank doesn't have the recycling in a pyramid, he's going to shoot everyone. Turning it into something ridiculous can make you realize the thing that you're angry about is ridiculous. So communication and defusing are the two things I would say. Sam, anything?
Yeah, I forgot to mention this actually. It's not anger though, but it really looks like it. If I get overwhelmed, and it can happen over the tiniest thing. If I actually, but it's not anger, is it?
Thing.
We spoke about this earlier. It's autism, so it's probably not that relevant. But I'll carry on anyway. If I can feel like a crumb under my foot, I'll just start throwing things and smashing doors against the walls and shit.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger and a teenager and my hormones were raging, I really hurt people, and I'm really ashamed of that. And that would have looked like anger, but actually I was just overwhelmed. Like I was play fighting with somebody once, and they held me down by my wrists. Now I can't stand anything tight around my wrists, and I bit them so hard my teeth met. And I know, and that same person made a noise that when I was feeling ill, it really made me, it really overwhelmed me, and I told them not to do it, and they did it again, and I grabbed them by the hair and I just smashed my knee into their face and really hurt them. And I just remember they were looking up at me and saying, "Why?" And I couldn't answer, and I just didn't know why, and I'm still so sorry to this day. And I did other things too, but you know me, I'm not one to go on. So
People,
I'm just on there.
people wonder why I live in fear.
Yeah.
And I think that explains a lot of it, really.
And all of that was at the Leeds talk a few months ago, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. Right, that was episode 142 of the ADHD Adults, and it was the very first Friday extra edition of the ADHD Adults podcast that was after Monday's episode on anger in season 2. If you like this nonsense and want to get involved, please contact us on the forums, on our podcast, in the website, which is the ADHDadults.uk. Have a lovely weekend. Goodbyes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Trigger warning, klaxon, 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 big klaxon. Trigger warning, klaxon.